The reason I think Microsoft butchered Halo is because every problem that 343 has or had can be traced back up to the top. I have made videos talking about how trend chasing hurt Halo, how Halo is being wasted, how Halo Infinite's customization is messy, and all these issues can honestly be explained by corporate greed and ineptitude that I think comes from the top. Because Microsoft games in general have been getting pretty negative receptions these last few years. I mean, just look at the state of Xbox if you want to see gaming ineptitude. I also don't think blaming 343 for Halo's woes is a bad thing too. Because 343 as a game studio should get scorned for having terrible launches at every single one of their games, except for their first one, Halo 4. But I think it's the suits up top at Microsoft that told 343 to add things like the predatory monetization, like Halo 5's loot boxes, and the Fortnite monetization scheme in Halo Infinite. I also think it was Microsoft who told 343 to make Halo Infinite free to play, Halo 5 have advanced movement, and essentially copy Call of Duty and Halo 4. Even if 343 decided on all those trend chasing stuff themselves, I'd like to comment who hired those people into 343. Who was in charge of hiring the management at 343? To me, the answer is Microsoft. When things are so mediocre for so long and games are constantly broken at launch, I don't personally blame 343 anymore. Instead, I think it's the suits at Microsoft because they're the only constant throughout these years. And again, I'm not necessarily saying that it's not 343's fault. I'm just trying to say that I think at the end of the day, when we're consistently seeing an issue with Microsoft games and Xbox Game Studios and Xbox in general, maybe we should stop pointing at the game studios themselves and start pointing at the people up top because they're the ones still in their positions after all the failure and all the mediocrity. The issue Microsoft and a lot of AAA companies have is when a company gets too big, they start becoming really inept. It's no surprise to me that games that have had way less money and manpower into them, like Palworld and Helldivers 2 for example, can pop off and become massively successful. Indie developers, or even just smaller gaming studios, are run by people who are gamers. While people who are in charge of Microsoft, Activision pre-purchase, and Ubisoft are not gamers, but instead they are businessmen who are more concerned about squeezing as much money from their IPs that they can instead of making a good product. I think the size of Microsoft is a big issue for Halo, Xbox Game Studios, and other AAA companies in general. Halo Infinite, for example, has a lot of things changed that didn't need to be changed, like the menus, way they did playlists, armor coding system, and career rank. It honestly astounds me how many good ideas got left behind with MCC that they haven't released yet or took a long time to be released, like the matchmaking composer, career rank, and custom game browser. And I'm glad that these things will be or are currently in the game, but I can't understand why they didn't just copy these things people loved from MCC into Infinite directly instead of taking forever to redesign it. My guess would be because they were negligent in how they handled their manpower and time. Because we waited over half a decade for a game that launched with less features in it than any other Halo before it. I just feel like when it comes to AAA studios, that there's just so much bloat in those type of companies, and they waste so much money, and the products we're given after they release them officially are just so half-baked and undercooked, it's insane to me. And I get they want to do things like have crazy realistic graphics and all that. But if you can't get the core of your game done, then you shouldn't release the game. You shouldn't worry about the extra bells and whistles until the game is finished, because I think that's partially why we've had a pandemic of unfinished games. Halo Infinite, for example, recently got its networking update, which I'm really grateful for because the networking in Halo Infinite these last 2 years has been horrendous. And that's the type of thing I'm talking about. Why would you release a game that has such horrendous networking? And why would it take you 2 years to finally start fixing it? I think it's things like that game companies should look at and say, maybe we shouldn't release the game right now. Maybe we should make sure that the core gameplay experience is polished before we send it out to the public. And lastly, the reason Microsoft butchered Halo was to make easy money that would make the shareholders happy. In my opinion, when your main priority is gaining profits, you lose sight of what actually matters. aka making a good video game that people will waste their lives on. I'm not saying game companies shouldn't make money, but what I am saying is that they should focus on making a good game first, because the money will follow afterwards. That's why indie games have been on the rise, is because their product comes first, and that will obviously attract interest, attention, and then of course money. Thank you for watching the video. Do you think Microsoft butchered Halo, or did they not? Let me know in the comments, and
I'm sorry, sir. It's time for you to leave.